For years, fans had one question that never stopped haunting them: why didn't King Yaman and Demet Özdemir ever end up together? They had everything: chemistry that burned through the screen, laughter that felt too real to be scripted, and a connection that millions could see, even when they tried to hide it. But behind that perfect image, something darker, more complicated, was always there, a truth that neither of them could face at the time. It all began on the set of Erkenci Kuş, a show that didn't just make them famous, but changed their lives forever. From the first moment Ken looked into Demet's eyes, something shifted. Those who worked with them often said the same thing: when the camera stopped, they didn't. They would linger on set, laugh between takes, whisper things no one could hear. And yet, Ken was already becoming a man under immense pressure: fame, contracts, headlines, and a public that demanded perfection. Demet, on the other hand, was still figuring out who she was, caught between being an actress and a woman falling in love with someone she wasn't supposed to. At first, they tried to keep it professional. But passion doesn't listen to logic. Late-night rehearsals turned into hours of conversation. He'd walk her to her car, she'd text him after midnight, "You were incredible today." And slowly, it stopped being fiction. But when the cameras wrapped, and the show ended, reality hit like a storm. Suddenly, they weren't just actors, they were a story the world couldn't stop talking about. Rumors exploded: are they together? Did they break up? Why aren't they seen anymore? And both of them were forced to take opposite paths. Demet started distancing herself from the spotlight, while Ken escaped to Italy, building a new version of himself, one that looked strong and untouchable. But deep down, something had been left unresolved, a question that followed him everywhere he went. And now, years later, in an interview no one saw coming, Ken Yaman finally said the words that froze everyone: some things are not about love. Sometimes, you can love someone deeply, and still know you can't marry them. The world went silent. Fans immediately knew who he was talking about. Because there was only one woman who fit that description: Demet Özdemir. When that interview clip dropped online, social media exploded. Fans from Turkey, Italy, and Spain all started posting the same question: is he talking about Demet? Within hours, hashtags like #KenYamanConfession and #DemetAndKen were trending worldwide. Everyone wanted answers. Everyone wanted to know why a man who once looked at Demet as if she were the only person in the world could now say he couldn't marry her. But the truth, as always, wasn't that simple. According to people close to Ken, that confession didn't come out of nowhere. He had been carrying the weight of that sentence for years. He wasn't blaming Demet, he was blaming the world they lived in. "We were too visible," one friend later revealed. Everyone thought they owned their love story. During Erkenci Kuş, producers had warned them repeatedly, don't mix personal feelings with the show. But how could they not? The chemistry was uncontrollable, raw, and real. There were moments, even off camera, when Demet's eyes filled with tears after a romantic scene, and Ken would silently hold her hand under the table during interviews, gestures that spoke louder than any statement. Yet the fame that united them soon became the wall that separated them. When the show ended, Ken was offered international projects: Italy, Spain, even a rumored Hollywood opportunity. The agencies wanted him single, available, the fantasy hero millions could dream of. Marriage, love, or even a public relationship didn't fit that image. Demet knew it. She had seen the change in his eyes long before the public did. He was still kind, still protective. But something in him had become careful, almost guarded. There were times she'd call, and he wouldn't answer. Times she'd send messages that were read but never replied to. And when she finally asked, "Why are you pulling away?" his answer was simple but devastating: "Because I can't protect you from what's coming." That was the moment Demet realized their love wasn't ending because of lack of feelings, it was ending because of everything around them. Years later, when Ken began his new life in Italy, tabloids linked him to Sarah Bluma, an Italian model who appeared with him at a charity gala. The photos looked intimate, her hand on his arm, his smile calm but distant. Fans immediately compared her to Demet. "She looks nothing like her," one comment said. Others wrote, "He's trying to move on, but you can see it in his eyes, he's still thinking of Demet." And they were right. I in private circles, Ken often avoided questions about Demet, but when her name came up, his expression always changed. A softness would return for just a second before he forced a smile. Once, during an Italian interview, the host joked, "You must be used to breaking hearts." Ken laughed, but then quietly added, "Some hearts you don't break. They just drift away." That moment went viral in Turkey. Demet's fans flooded social media with clips of their past interviews, those old behind-the-scenes videos where they couldn't stop smiling at each other. And for a brief moment, the internet did what it always does, it turned nostalgia into obsession. People began asking again, what really happened between them? Why couldn't he marry her? And behind all that noise, one person, Demet herself, watched in silence. She didn't post anything. She didn't comment. But those who know her say she watched the clip over and over again that night, as millions replayed Can's confession. Somewhere in Istanbul, Demet sat alone on her balcony. The same balcony where, years ago, she had once received a late-night call from him before his flight to Italy. Back then, his voice had been warm, trembling slightly with emotions he couldn't name. "Don't forget who I really am when they change me," he'd whispered. She never did. Now, years later, she was hearing that same man admit to the world that he could never marry her. Not because he didn't love her, but because life, fame, pressure, destiny, had decided otherwise. She didn't cry. Not this time. She simply smiled, the kind of smile that hides 1,000 memories, and whispered softly, "I knew you'd say that one day." Her closest friend later revealed that Demet didn't go online that night. She didn't check the trends, didn't respond to journalists, and didn't make a statement. Instead, she opened an old wooden box in her living room, the one she kept hidden under a shelf, and inside were letters. Handwritten, old, slightly faded. They weren't official letters. They were notes, scribbles exchanged between scenes during her Kenzie cuss. One said, "If I look at you too long, I forget my lines." Another, "Promise me you'll never stop dancing, even if I'm not there to watch." Demet read them slowly, tracing every curve of his handwriting. Then she reached the last one, a small folded paper, dated the night before the final episode was filmed. "We made people believe in love again. Even if we couldn't keep it." That note broke her again. Meanwhile, in Rome, Ken sat in his hotel suite, phone buzzing nonstop with messages from his manager, his PR team, and fans begging for clarification. But he said nothing. Instead, he opened Instagram, stared at a blank story screen, and typed 7 simple words, "Not everything lost means it's over." No tag. No explanation. But everyone knew, the next morning, that story had over 2 million shares. Turkish media picked it up instantly, Yaman's mysterious post after his confession. Headlines screamed speculation, was it for Demet? Did they talk again? Some insiders claimed they did. That same night, a private source told reporters that Demet received a phone call around midnight, an Italian number. She didn't answer. The call came twice. Then stopped. One fan tweeted, "He finally called, but she didn't pick up." That tweet went viral. For days, the internet was divided between hope and heartbreak. Some believed they were speaking again in secret. Others thought it was too late. But those who knew the two best said something different, that their story had never truly ended, it had just been paused, somewhere between love and silence. Even their friends felt the tension. One former castmate later said, "When you've lived something that real, time doesn't erase it. It just hides it until one of you says something that brings it all back." And that's exactly what Can's confession did. It reopened a chapter both of them thought was closed. Yet deep inside, both knew, something had changed. They were no longer the same people who met under studio lights. Life had given them fame but taken away the one thing they never wanted to lose, each other. In Italy, life for Yaman looked perfect from the outside, luxury cars, movie premieres, elegant dinners, a mansion in Rome that every magazine called the dream of an international star. But behind those closed doors, silence had become his closest companion. He often spent evenings sitting by the wide glass window overlooking the city, a glass of red wine in one hand, scrolling through old photos on his phone, not the public ones, not the ones fans could see. These were the private ones. The ones that never made it to Instagram. A blurry selfie of him and Demet laughing between takes. A sunset on the set of her Kenzie Kuss. A short video clip she once recorded of him sleeping on a couch after a long shooting day. She had written "My Lion" in the caption. He never deleted them. Every time his phone buzzed with a message from Sarah Bluma or a call from his Italian producer, he'd glance at it, hesitate, and then put the phone face down. Sarah was kind, smart, and everything the world expected him to be with. But she wasn't Demet. And that was the one truth he could never say out loud. The night after his confession went viral, Sarah reportedly visited him. Witnesses said they argued quietly outside the villa. "You said you've moved on," she whispered. "I did," he replied, "but some ghosts don't leave." In Istanbul, Demet was facing her own storm. The Turkish media had turned her silence into headlines. Demet refuses to comment on Can's confession. Brands were calling, interviews were offered, but she declined them all. Friends said she was spending more time at home, barely speaking, just writing in her journal. One night, she wrote a line that would later leak online through a close friend: "He didn't break my heart. He just left it unfinished." That sentence broke the internet again. For fans who had followed their story from the beginning, it was like watching two souls trying to speak to each other without words. Each public statement, each post, each rumor felt like pieces of a conversation they couldn't have in person, and then something unexpected happened. A Turkish journalist spotted Can at the Istanbul airport. He was alone, wearing a black hoodie and sunglasses. No assistant, no security, just him. The photos spread like wildfire. Can Yaman back in Istanbul after emotional confession? Rumors started swirling that he had returned for a secret project, but fans knew better. That same day, Demet was seen leaving her gym, head down, visibly emotional. The timing was too perfect. Too specific. The internet exploded again. Are they meeting in secret? Neither of them confirmed it. But that night, at 2:17 a.m., Demet posted a simple story, a candle burning in darkness, with the caption, "Some lights never go out." 2 hours later, Can reposted a quote that read, "Some flames don't burn. They remember." It wasn't coincidence. It was communication, the only kind they could still have. For years, they had both played roles written by others. But now, after all the noise, all the distance, they were finally writing their own story again, one post, one word, one silent gesture at a time. It was a quiet, windless night in Istanbul, the kind of night when even the Bosphorus seemed to hold its breath. Somewhere far from the city lights, in a small private restaurant by the water, a car stopped. The man who stepped out looked nothing like the television star the world knew. He wasn't wearing designer clothes, no paparazzi followed him. Just a black coat, a calm face, and eyes carrying years of silence. Can Yaman. He had chosen this place for a reason. It was where they once celebrated the end of filming her Kenzie Kuss. That night had been filled with laughter, dancing, and unspoken feelings. Now, years later, the same chairs, the same smell of sea and jasmine, waited for something unfinished. 10 minutes later, another car arrived. Demet Özdemir stepped out, wearing a simple beige coat. No makeup, no cameras. Just her, real, beautiful, and trembling slightly. She didn't expect him to actually come. But when she saw his car outside, she knew it was time. When she entered, he was already waiting. Their eyes met, and for a moment, everything around them disappeared. No Italy. No Sarah. No headlines. No distance. Just them. "Hi," she whispered. "Hi," he replied, his voice breaking a little. They sat down. Neither touched their food. For a long time, there was only silence, broken only by the sound of the waves outside. Then Can finally spoke. "I didn't mean to hurt you, Demet." "You didn't," she said softly. "You just disappeared. Because I thought that was the only way to protect what we had." "And did it work?" "No," he admitted. "I lost you anyway." Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't look away. There was no anger, only the sadness of two people who once had everything, and then lost it to time and fame. "Why now, Can?" she asked finally. "Why confess after all these years?" He sighed deeply. "Because every time they ask me about my future, I realize I can't imagine it without thinking of my past. Without thinking of you." Demet looked down, unable to speak. She had spent years trying to erase him, to convince herself that love fades. But now, sitting across from him again, she realized something painful: love doesn't fade, it just hides under layers of pride and fear. "Do you still think you can't marry me?" she asked quietly. He looked at her, eyes filled with emotion. "I can't," he said, "because the man who could have, doesn't exist anymore." That line hit her like a wave. Not because it was cruel, but because it was true. They had become two different people, shaped by distance, fame, heartbreak, and survival. The boy who once wrote her love notes was now a man learning to live with what he lost. Demet smiled sadly. "Maybe that's the real tragedy," she said. "Not that we couldn't be together, but that we met too soon." He nodded slowly. "Maybe," he whispered. "Or maybe we met exactly when we were meant to remind each other what love really feels like." For a while, neither spoke. The city lights reflected in the water like scattered stars. He reached across the table, hesitating for just a moment, then touched her hand. She didn't pull away. "You'll always be the one I couldn't forget," he said softly. "And you," she answered, "the one I could never hate." That was their closure, not an ending, not a beginning, just a quiet truth between two souls who finally stopped running from it. When Demet stood to leave, he didn't stop her. He just watched her walk toward the door, her shadow stretching across the empty restaurant floor. Before stepping outside, she turned back and smiled faintly. "Take care of yourself, Can." "Always," he replied. She left. He stayed, staring at the chair where she had sat, replaying every second in his mind, the sound of her voice, the way she said his name, the peace that came after years of chaos. That night, he didn't post anything. He didn't need to. But the next morning, fans noticed something strange on his Instagram bio. The quote had changed again. It now read, "Some goodbyes are just another form of love." Demet, hours later, posted a photo of the sunrise over the Bosphorus with one simple caption, "And some stories never really end." The internet broke once again. People believed it was a sign, a secret message, a final chapter that wasn't really final. But for Can and Demet, it wasn't about what people believed. It was about the peace of finally saying everything that had been left unsaid. In the years that followed, they would both continue their paths, different, but forever marked by that one love that changed them. Can would keep conquering Europe, starring in international projects, while Demet would focus on her art, writing and producing, growing stronger and freer than ever. And sometimes, when reporters asked her about Can, she'd just smile and say, "He was never mine to lose. He was just the chapter I'll always reread." As the waves of the Bosphorus kept whispering their eternal rhythm, one thing became clear to everyone who had ever watched them: some stories don't need a happy ending, just an honest one. Because between Yaman and Demet Özdemir, that honesty had finally arrived. And it was beautiful.